Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you another entry into the mini series I didn't tell anybody I was doing. Sometimes my brain just really wants to do something, and then I feel like saying it out loud might be kind of stupid. And also, I ended up picking this up after my struggles with YouTube's copyright systems for a video that I don't know if it'll ever come out at this point. But I wanted to talk about the scary, the stereotypically scary armies in 40k and what's going on with them recently and what they can be doing. Starting first with my babies, the Tyranids, and then my next babies, the Necrons. We now move on to probably the next scariest one, maybe Chaos, and specifically Chaos Space Marines. As you can see, they should be in their prime power right now with 666 right there. And but somehow they are an interesting case in which their overall faction win rate is less than 50%, but they're tied for the second most tournament wins in this last little go around. Now, I could harp on what my biggest pain point was on the last month, but I'll just say as a quick aside, this is how numbers this is where you can argue what numbers truly mean and how there's much of a difference versus tourney wins and win rate, because this is exactly that compared to how people feel about other things. But neither here nor there, we have CSM, to which the things that we thought were going to work in the beginning aren't doing that, and the things that we thought weren't going to work in the beginning are doing that. Now, Chaos Cult, I guess 40k Dirtbags just hasn't decided to go anywhere lately, so not seeing that top everywhere. But I know that this recently got a fourth place somewhere. I don't remember where, but we know Chaos Cult works. But yet, nobody wants to do it. And at the start, when the Codex released, everybody's like, who asked for this? And apparently, you should have asked for it. Then we go to Renegade Raiders, where some people were happy that their flavor was back. Or were like, oh man, yeah, Red Corsairs. Fuck it, we're so back. And then it turns out that this is probably your best consistent one that people actually want to play that doesn't require you to move 200 tiny models. And you go to Deceptors, another one that apparently just won something. And people were like, there's no way in hell this will work. But here we are. And even better, Veterans of the Long War is another one that you're like, all right, it's okay. Like, it'll still do the things we want it to do. But the thing that makes this win even sweeter is that it was Liam VSL busting out Emperor's Children. Yes, their data sheets that are still being kind of cooked for the upcoming release of them, the upcoming full release, to use them with Veterans of the Long War and win a damn tournament. With the second place being a faction that people are trying so hard to act like it actually isn't capable. Now, it has its issues, but it's still okay. So, Veterans of the Long War. And then you have the interesting ones where I've seen some people bring out Failhammer Siege Host every now and again. I think, honestly, if somebody really wanted to spec hard into it, this might be an option as well. Packbound Zealots, I don't really know enough about to say. I understand that it kind of has the flavor from Index, but it seems like people don't want to make that one work. But the one that I truly want to talk about today, and you probably see on the thumbnail, Soulforged Warpack, is the thing that should be bananas. The things it should be doing in the meta we're in sounds perfect, especially when you go with the units that go within it. But we'll talk about that right after I finish with Dread Talons. Look, I made a video talking about how you can, as CSM, just completely fuck with your enemy's command pool, resource pool. You bring out Dread Talons, Night Lords, not saying that it's great, but if they're either battle shocked or they are affected by Lord of Deceit, whether that be from Cypher or Kairos Fate Weaver. I'm just saying, Space Wolf players have figured out that Bjorn plus Calidus is pretty good. CSM, you have access to that for this and all of these detachments. And Dread Talents can take it a step further by battle shocking, or hoping to battle shock, I guess, other people around it. So, hey. But now let's get back into Soulforged Warpack, into which you still have Dark Pack, but then you can supercharge it a bit like the Orcs Dread Mob rule, where it's just like you could do the thing, you could do it even better. Now, Dark Pact already gives you the amazing ability of just, hey, take a leadership test. If you pass or fail it, you get the benefit, but it just depends if you take mortal wounds or not, which I think is insanely busted. You either can make sure that your unit gets lethal hits or sustained hits one, and if it's a demon vehicle, you can subtract one from the leadership test, but on ranged attacks, add one to the wound roll when you need it, and add two to the attack characteristics of melee weapons by models in that unit when you need it, if you really feel you need to go a little bit further. At the expense of possibly, at max, 3 wounds. And you have units that can heal wounds. Alright, so on paper, I think that's why a lot of us were like, this cooks. Regardless of how small this list is, it should cook. But that's problem number one, in which the things that are here both aren't going to be taken, and I think this might be one of the first cases in which I believe points just might fix everything. Like, I genuinely think it's just that things cost a little bit too much for what they do, when you can take things like a Vindicator for pretty much what you wanted to accomplish with the units in this list. But going on to an enhancements, we have Forge's Blessing, in which, in your command phase, whoever you've put this on, select one friendly Heretic Astartes vehicle. This entire list, right? And I'll just prep this for later because I didn't. But until the start of your next command phase, it has a Feel No Pain 6 up. Take it from the Tyrannage player. Feel No Pains you can just toss out within 12-inch range without using a command point on it. Yeah, that kinda cooks. So, there's that. Then you have Invigorated Mechatendrils. Warpsmith only, add 4 to the bear's move characteristic. Now, it makes sense why you might want to do that. Where are we? I thought I put that up, but just real quick. It makes sense that you want to take your Warpsmith to increase to 10 inches. That way you can keep up with your vehicles and put them in the right place, but I don't know if you really need to do that for 15 points, but if you have the points to spare, go for it. Tempting addendum, you have Heretic Astartes model only, of course. Each time a demon vehicle from your army does its contract, you can, within 3 inches of the bearer, you can increase the amount of mortal wounds you would take if you take the mortal wounds as a result. Add 1 to the number of mortal wounds, so at max you can be wounded mortally 4 mortal wounds. And until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, you can re-roll the hit. Not re-roll once, the entire hit. For 25 points, 3 inches around you, re-roll hits, sustained hits 1, lethal hits, add 1 to the wound roll, or add 2 to the attack characteristic of melee weapons. Like, do you see how busted all of this sounds on paper? And then for the last one, Soul Harvester. All the bearers on the battlefield. Each time an enemy unit within 12 inches of the bearer is destroyed, roll 1d6. On a 5 up, you gain 1 command point. Fuck it, sure. Like, why not have another way to just control command points? You can just be swimming in these bitches. Now, mind you, this requires you to be next to an enemy unit that dies, and it has to be on a Heretic Astartes model, but you have quite the list of characters that you could try to fit in here. And I think this goes to what we see with Crusher Stampede. I'm sorry if you've been looking and keeping up with these videos. How many times I reference things that I'm a bit more comfortable with that as a maybe a dedicated CSM player, you might not be comfortable with. But right now, one of my biggest complaints that I'm seeing in Crusher Stampede list is that we're bringing more chaff than we ever had in the big monster detachment for some odd reason. And then every other detachment is just like, wait, the big monsters are actually pretty good for their price. We'll do more of that. So we're seeing that inverse here. Oh, and Tyranids. And I think that what Soulforged Warpack, the list that I've seen be played with, might be suffering from a little bit of that issue, in which you're not bringing enough of the things that benefit from it, but at the same time, you really need to hit that fine price point. But moving on to the stratagems and why I think that is just even better. And again, to the Crusher Stampede reference, you have one in which your Heretic Astartes model can just move through terrain features as if they're not there. Just one command point. Doesn't even have to worry about possibly battle shocking yourself. Just go through it. Just straight up. And it doesn't even stop at demon vehicles. Your Chaos Vindicator can just go through a wall. Like what? Okay. We also have Heretic Astartes Demon Vehicle where you can improve the AP by 1. And again, you still have Dark Packs. And you have possibly tempting addendum to supercharge that too. Now, like hello? Glut of Souls. This one can't be on Titanic, but for every time until the end of the phase, and the fight phase only, which is kind of a bummer. But if your unit invokes his contract and makes an attack that destroys an enemy model, roll 1d6. On a 5 plus, your unit regens 1 locked wound after all of its attacks have been resolved. I think this is another thing that I've been criticizing in some of the detachments I've gone through, in which people aren't using the stratagems. Don't get me wrong, I understand that it doesn't sound the best, but if you have a wounded, let's say, Mauler Fiend, or, you know what, let's keep with Mauler Fiend. You have a wounded Mauler Fiend, I think you just straight up take the chance of 1 CP because you already have what every other detachment would want to do in the form of Dark Packs. You can already choose if you want sustained or lethal versus the target. And because this is Soulforged Warpack, you can go Super Saiyan and add another 2 to the attack characteristic of that melee weapon at the expense. Like, that is a great trade off. So every time you are like, alright, I need to go further with my Dark Pact, why don't you just take the chance of Blood of Souls? And I get it, a 5 up is a bit much, but what you're throwing this into, you should probably be rolling at least 3 or 4 die. So yeah, I think you need to be using Blood of Souls a little bit more. Then Predatory Pursuit. This is Blood Surge without you needing to get hit. So it's a reactive move. But what's another? I guess it's just a surge or a track down. Either way, if your opponent makes a normal advance or fallback move within 9 inches of a Heretic Astartes vehicle, and again, any Heretic Astartes vehicle, I don't think you're doing this with a Vindicator or a Land Raider or a Rhino, but whatever. You have the option to. You can make a normal move of up to 6 inches, but must end that move as close as possible to that enemy unit. Just stay on their ass with something like Venom Crawler's not the toughest, but a Mauler Fiend and you can't get away? Perfect. Or maybe even you put a Forge Fiend in a weird situation and you Overwatch. Can you? Ooh, wait, somebody in the comments know, because I've seen this get let me know. the ruling, because I've seen a couple of different rulings on this, so I don't know which one is the most prevailing one um, in tournaments. But if you make a reactive move, can you still Overwatch? Or I guess to the same point, yeah, can you Overwatch? Huh. Because in my head, I'm like, well, I guess if you were in position, you would Overwatch anyway. But say your Forge Fiend was behind a wall, and then somebody moves within 9 inches. I think you have to be able to fire Overwatch at the start of that movement. So I guess not. Guess that answers my own question. But if you know if there's another loophole I don't know about, please drop it in the comments below. And then you have this other thing that I think only goes to the Hellbrute. Because, yeah. Or, I guess not only to the Hellbrute, but the most value you probably will get is out of the Hellbrute. During your command phase, for 1 CP, make one heretic a starting vehicle, gain the demon keyword for the rest of the battle, so it can benefit from the things that are like here. Just this is what cohort Cybernetica wish it had, where not only are you just applying the rule just 1 CP, instead of your entire detachment rule being giving one data sheet, your army rule, how about 1 CP? Just give it your army rule and then let the rest do the thing. But neither here nor there. Demonic possession, perfectly fine addition. They knew what they were doing with this. And then finally, feeding frenzy. One heretic start his vehicle from your army that is within engagement range of the enemy unit that tried to fall back until the end of the phase. Each time an enemy unit, excluding monsters and vehicles, that is within engagement range of your units falls back, all models in that enemy unit must take a desperate escape test. You can force desperate escape test. When doing so, of that, if that enemy unit is battle shock, subtract 1 from each of those tests. So instead of that should be of. But yeah. So just if somebody was trying to get away from, just going to stick with the Mauler Fiend because that's the melee one. Tries to fall back, you can pop Feeding Frenzy, and I believe you can steal Predatory Pursuit. So going from that, we now have things in which the biggest issue that I see immediately is that one key player to this whole thing doesn't have the keyword needed, even though this is their detachment. Vastor. You're bringing Vastor in this one. It's thematic. You don't have to, but he does buff it like the way that your Warpsmith will. So, Vastor is not a vehicle, unfortunately. Is that unfortunate? I don't know. Won't be hurt by anti-vehicle. Will be hurt by anti-monster. But you have Vastor giving an aura in which a friendly demon vehicle is within 6 inches of this model. Add 1 to the strength characteristic of weapons equipped by models in that unit, not just melee, not just range. Add 1 to the strength characteristic of all the weapons. He has Deep Strike, Deadly Demise D3. I think a lot of people are traumatized from the fact when Vastor was just butt cheeks at the start of this edition, but now he's fairly decent. You have a ranged weapon that is anti-vehicle 4 up, Torrent. Okay, so D6 attacks 5-1. Not the best, not the worst. At most, you are doing 6 damage on it, but anti-vehicle 4 up on a Torrent weapon, fuck it. -2 AP, yeah. Auto wounding on 4s upwards to 6 damage, just a nice little chip. But then his melee weapon, anti-vehicle 4 up and death wounds. So vehicles are just getting slapped on 4s for 3 damage apiece, regardless of the strength. Already being 14, not just stuck at 12, 14 AP2. And that means that if there's a monster that is T12 on 6s, you still are doing death wounds of 3. Now you are only T10, 2 up save, 4 up invul, 14 wounds. But again, you can deep strike and probably just get the party started where you need to. And then the sweep attack is still anti-vehicle 4 up. But 14 attacks, 801 hitting on 2s? Goodness. And then for his other ability that I didn't touch on before getting into stats because of a stat boost, Reorder Reality. Each time an enemy unit within 18 inches of this model targets this model, until the end of the phase, that enemy units' ranged weapons have the hazardous ability. Now, sure, I think I would prefer the Bellacore approach of just not getting hit, but hazardous, people aren't careful. I'm not the only one taking some mortal wounds around here. But all that to say that there's nothing in this for Vastor, and this is his. Yeah, many are the demons who have forged pacts with Vastor, the Archifane. This is his whole thing, and he can't benefit from a damn thing in here. He can't even have an enhancement on him, which is really sad. I don't know what further they could do to make it so that Vastor gets an even better place in his own detachment. Unless, let me just triple check, I'm not missing something, but no, monster character, epic hero, so he wasn't going to take the enhancements anyway. Fly, and I knew he was epic hero, I just wasn't thinking at the moment. Chaos is still, yeah, but demon, unless they change Soulforged Warpack to Demon Heretic Astartes demon units from your army, but that loses the flavor. So that's just the trade-off and the price to pay. Pull Vastor back up here to that. Then we go into the fact that I've talked about a lot of Chaos Vindicator, just because it's a great weapons platform for 185 points, 11 to 11. It has smoke. When ranged attacks with its Demolisher Cannon, this model can target enemy units within engagement range of it, provided no other friendly units are also within engagement range of that enemy unit. That means that you can shoot your blast of d6 plus 3 on 3s, 14 minus 3 d6 damage. In addition, when making ranged attacks, this model does not suffer the penalty to its hit rolls for being within engagement range of one or more enemy units. So you're not even taking the big guns never tired, going up to hitting on 4s. You're just hitting on 3s whenever you want. And you can still gain some of these benefits up here, so that means you can possibly, after you making it demonically possessed, increase the AP of that just utter platform by another one, increasing the wound rolls that you don't really need but just drive it home. So Chaos Vindicator, it's 185 points. I think you need to see more of them in some of these lists because people are already bringing them in Chaos Space Marine lists. So bring it out. I understand 9-inch move is a little bit weird, but you can clear pretty much whatever you want to clear out for Chaos Vindicator price. While we're here, might as well also go over the things that we all know about though. But you have access to Predator Destructors, still decent weapons platform if you really need to cut through infantry. And maybe that's it. Maybe this is you don't have enough things to deal with the small shit. But you can improve the AP characteristic versus infantry by 1, and again, you could just improve the AP, of course, after possession, by another 1. AP does stack. So, unless I'm forgetting. Am I forgetting a rule? Am I forgetting a rule? If I'm forgetting a rule, please tell me. But I'm pretty sure you could just buff it so that, just 2 AP from Predator Destructor. Annihilator. You're not bringing an Annihilator, but if you want to re-roll damage roll of 1 versus monster and vehicles, you can. Finish off with the Land Raider. Disembarks from them. It can steal. You can assault ramp. We know what assault ramp is. charge after disembarking. 240 points though. This one I can't say that you should really be aiming for it, but it is there. And rhinos are also just transports. Don't worry about that. Hellbrute though is the one that is a vehicle walker, and the one that surprised me doesn't have the demon keyword. Like, aren't they literally just molded together? But, well, a friendly Heretic Astartes unit is within 6 inches of the model. Each time that unit makes a dark pack until the end of the phase, weapons equipped by models in that unit gain both abilities conferred by that pact. For 130 points a Hellbrute at 928, you can make it so that a friendly Heretic Astartes model, including this one, makes a dark pack that you can overcharge. You're getting sustains and lethals. What more do you need on this one for the price of a Hellbrute? And if this model is equipped with 2 melee weapons in addition to its close combat weapon, add 2 to the attack characteristics of those 2 weapons. Like, throw in Hellbrutes. I get that it's a 6-inch move, but for 130 points, 928 idiots. Like, as a Tyranid player, I am not too much of a fan of the old One Eye package, but you'll see we'll bring in 400 points worth of stuff just for pretty much what Hellbrutes would do. So for 3 Hellbrutes, 130 each, yeah, I think you can do it. I think you can do it to buff the other pieces that you need, and for 1 CP, maybe a turn, maybe every other turn, whenever you feel that you really need to kick it into high gear, to give them the demon keyword so that they can benefit from, like, think about it. Like, come on now. Add 2 to the attack characteristics of the weapon. Add 2 to the melee weapon if they have both equipped. That's plus 4 on your attacks weapons. Now, mind you, they don't have extra attacks. But that gives you the weapon profile that you're kind of looking for. Where if you are with a Hellbrute hammer, and in addition to its close combat weapons. So you have that. 601 will clear out whatever. Let's say that you take the Hellbrute hammer and Power Scourge. Can you take both? Da-da-da. Hellbrute hammer and the Hellbrute fist are the ones that you can take together. Sorry. So you take these 2 together. You are clearing whatever big thing you wanted, or even just, let's go with fist and Power Scourge because you can add +1 to the wound. I'm sorry, not +1 to the wound. You can improve the AP, and from a distance, it's +1 to the wound. But point still stands. Reroll the hits, maybe. Whatever it was, is just absolutely eating shit. So, Hellbrutes, put more of them in your Soulforged Warpack list. Warsmith you're already bringing, but let's just quickly talk about why you're bringing it. And I think this is a case of where you don't always want your leader to lead. Because if you just do 70 points, loan up to again be another buffing pieces, I think you need to be laying buffing pieces together in this detachment more so than others think, so you can absolutely supercharge the vehicles. If you have Hellbrutes with Warpsmiths, with Vastor, there's kind of no reason for anything to survive around you. And let's see what their OC is looking like. You have 3 from Hellbrutes. Vastor is also 3. 3, 3. Just real quick, you're looking at a lot of OC3. And if you're bold enough to bring a Corn, Lord of Skulls, an 8. But, just goodness. So, you can heal your vehicle, and within 12 inches, one enemy vehicle Battle Shock test. Not important. Don't worry about that. But you're bringing Warp Smiths for the healing. And also, if you. Well, you're also bringing them because they're a character. You need to put some of these enhancements on them somehow. Feel No Pain 6 up. Like, the room here is. I think that's the other era that we've gone from with the early list of Soulforged Warpack. It was just, hey, I can make my Forge Fiend a little bit scarier. Hey, I can make my Venom Crawler a little bit scarier. But it wasn't like I could make my Forge Fiend absolutely horrifying by adding one to the wound rolls, adding AP to it, additional strength from Vastor, and making sure that I get lethals and sustains on my Forge Fiend. Like we haven't seen a lot of that yet, and that's the direction that it needs to happen. But Wordsmith, you're bringing it anyway. I just felt we should probably look at it real quick. Venom Crawler. At the start of the fight phase, if one or more attacks made by this model, this phase destroy one or more units until the end of the battle. End of the battle. Add one to the attack characteristic of this model's weapons. You're already starting at 6 attacks. And this is on a per model basis. Sorry, per unit basis. But your Venom Crawler is a per model basis. For 120 points, I don't think this is worth it. This might be the first case of where I'm just like, you just need to take this down. Like a Venom Crawler at 959, well 935 up 9. It isn't really worth it when I can have a Hellbrute for 10 more points. You know what I mean? So I would like to see the Venom Crawler come down in points because I'm not even seeing this be brought in any CSM list, really. Maybe I'm missing some, and CSM players, please correct me in the comments if you're just like, but man, my Venom Crawler goes to work. But for 612, I'm not doing that. It looks like my Psychophage, but it doesn't give me the same love for it. Even Psychophage, when it's around this price point with about the same damage output, that's just too expensive. These Venom Crawlers need to drop down to about 95 points. And I say that purely because the Psychophage is 95 points, if I remember correctly. So, Venom Crawler, if it comes down in points, this is an amazing unit to put into the Edition. Purely because it'll just be a distraction card effects. Now, do you need more than one of these? Not really. I can see somebody put it into, but it's not like this is going to carry anything. But for just a quick 939 that is actually getting through some of your enemy's chaff, fine enough. But then we go to the Forge Fiend. This is one that I am fucking loving. Forge Fiend, 190 points, also too expensive. Each time this model is selected to shoot, it can use this ability. If it does, until the end of the phase, its ranged weapons have dev wounds and hazardous. So, you're already taking the chance of mortal wounds with the Dark Pact. But thankfully, you can choose the Dark Pact and then figure out if you took any mortal wounds, if you're feeling lucky, punk, and go for hazardous. But, you're putting this next to a Warpsmith. So, how about we just absolutely obliterate something with autocannons? Because you can have 2 autocannons. You could also have 2 ectoplasm cannons, but D3 blast, 2 D3 blast, I don't know if you really need that. Like, at most, that is, well, I shouldn't say at most, because blast could be upward to, like, I guess 20 units max. Is there any unit in the game that pushes past 20 models? So, an additional 4. 3, so yeah, 10 attacks at 10-3-3 at absolute most. I don't know if you need it, but if you're going sustained lethals from your Hellbrute being around, or with tempting at addendum, and if you especially supercharge it for +1 to the wound roll. Your Forge Fiend with twin Hades autocannon of 12 attacks. Lethals, sustained, +1 to wound, +1 AP if you want to put that stratagem too. You're eating everything alive. Now, that all said, I still don't think that they need to be 190 points because this is a same of which you have the like the Hive Tyrant issue, and which, yeah, on paper that goes, man, you can do a lot with that, but I also still have to pay 235 points to do that thing. In this case, you're paying an additional 130 points, one with an additional 70, so 200 points to make this comfortably insane every time. Dev wounds. It'll be okay. And let's see what the rerolls was again. Da, 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 da. Oh, there's rerolls on. Sorry, I've lost my place on that one. Rerolls. Did I just imagine rerolls on something? Possibly. Rerolls comes. There we go. It was tempting addendum. I'm like, no, there was reroll somehow. Um, yeah, rerolling the hits because of your Worksmith with tempting addendum just following up a Forge Fiend. You're just clearing the board for whatever it is. Overwatch be damned. Okay, just fuck. And you can even replace one of the armored jaws with an ectoplasm cannon. I'm sorry, one of the Forge Fiend jaws with an ectoplasm cannon and one armored limbs. So you can just make it a complete platform by still having one ectoplasm cannon for D3 blast. 10-3-3. And then additional text coming out of if you're around Vastor. Like, Forge Fiends, we've seen 190 be a good price point for the Tyran effects. And hell, some people have brought triple Tyran effects. Maybe, and I've been a great proponent of just throw triple of the big fucking thing that shoots a lot. Now, Tyran effects doesn't shoot a lot, it just shoots hard. But I've talked about why aren't we just running Hecaton Land Fortress times 3? And sure enough, when Votan got a win, yeah, it was triple Land Fort. So Forge Fiends, we just need to see triple Forge Fiends. Triple Forge Fiends, triple Hellbrutes, triple Warpsmiths, Vastor. Probably call it a day if you can fit all of that in. Cypher, if you can't, switch out Cypher something. Pink Horrors, so you can bring Kairos and have just more objective control. Like, a list along those lines, I think can probably go a pretty long way in what this meta is currently doing. You either have people bringing a shit ton of models, um, even outside of things like Green Tide, and I just made one about Unending Swarm still having potential. So, like, if people are doing that with Black Templars, and Skitarii have always been doing that, I guess AdMech have been doing it with Skitarii, and AdMech has an army in general right now. Yeah, Forge Fiend can feast right now. Then we go on to Mauler Fiends. You can ignore any or all modifiers to this model's move characteristic and to advance and charge rolls made for it. Fine, it moves 10, and you can put your Mauler Fiend through a wall. Put your Mauler Fiend through a wall. And then watch how terrified somebody gets after they charge, or after a Mauler Fiend charges, after making a 10-inch move through a wall. The attacks, and it has extra attacks. You have 6, 3, 14, -2, d6 plus 1, and then another 6, 7, 1, 1 on the Lasso Tendrils. 2 Mauler Fiends, again, probably their price can come down a little bit too. But they have Melt to 2, 9, 4, d6 on Magma Cutters. So you could either do one or the other, but you're probably taking all melee, realistically, so maybe not, but they have more options. But anyway, I do think you still, if Mauler Fiends come down 115-ish, 120-ish, maybe 110-ish, and you throw some of these in your list, fine. Defilers, this is the one that I'm like, huh. On paper, everything works, but it just doesn't, and I don't know why. It even has smoke. You can fights first or interrupt for 0 CP once per fight phase. But it just don't seem worth it for 190. It's T10, 3 up, 5 up, and Vuln, 14 wounds. Can go through features that are less than 4 inches without needing to use the stratagem. And the same effect of everything else I've said, you can make it insane. But I don't know if I'm paying 190 points for this. I don't know. And I think that seems to be where a lot of people are at, where with the Defiler, it just isn't worth it. I think a lot of it comes down to some of the profiles though. Like, sure, there's rapid fire, but you're still firing a strength 4 or 0 AP weapon. Who cares? Uh, the Defiler cannon is cool. That's probably the saving grace. But you have a 5 strength 5 weapon, again 0 AP. Is it the low AP? It might just be the low AP. Death wounds on a Reaper autocan with sustained hits 1's is cool. Sustained hits 1. Twin heavy bolter sustain and twin linked ignite cover torrent. Still cool things. Twin last cannon. Still one shot. I don't know. I think the Defiler can come down, but it's really hard to say that it should. Right? Like, is 170 a good thing for this? Don't know. Eh. Eh. Helldrake? Nobody's bringing flyers right now except for Drukhari players that have seen the light with the Void Raven Bomber. Um, but the Helldrake, unfortunately, I'm a sucker for the Hive Crone, and the Helldrake it is pretty much just a different Hive Crone, right? Like, let's not kid ourselves. The Flamer is better on the Helldrake, but for 205 points is steep. It has hover though. So maybe somebody can look at what Scar is doing with Drukhari and maybe incorporate that logic with bringing maybe one Helldrake. I don't know. That's a tough sell. That is a tough sell. But yeah, Helldrake, Dev Wounds isn't bad. North covers Torrent of D6 plus 3, 612 Flamer, while having hover and having Hades auto can. I'm sorry, or one Hades auto cannon. It's not and. It's one or the other. Yeah, add one to the hit roll is a useless. Um, yeah, I guess it's not useless if you get to melee. Oh no, maybe a Helldrake. Maybe I can be convinced about a Helldrake. Maybe one. I know not too many people are convinced about it, but I will say GW is very scared of flyers, and we've seen Tiger Sharks make a comeback. We've seen the Void Raven Bomber make a comeback. Uh I think there's room for flyers in this edition, but don't say it too loud before everybody gets onto that. So hey, you heard it here first. Flyers might actually do a little bit better. And also, I the thing that people are kind of forgetting about flyers that I guess I'll bust out here is that the whole we're seeing a lot of melee armies. You could just go away from them and or not be charged if you don't start in hover. And if they have a flamer, you can get rid of a lot of things. So yeah. And then if somebody is spending all their time trying to shoot a T9, 3 up, 5 up invuln, 12 wound thing out the sky, I can see why the Void Raven Bomber gets picked. Actually, since I've talked about it so much, let's just really quickly look at what the actual stats on it are. 9, 4, 6, and it has stealth. Yeah, I see where Scar is bringing it. It has Void Lances too. I forgot about that. Or Void or Dark Sides. Yeah, yeah. In addition to the Void Raven missiles, yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense, but yeah. And then finally, I shouldn't say finally. Yeah, finally. Corn, Lord of Skulls. Props to you if you can bring this sucker out, but once I looked at the rules for it, I was like, man, I get it. In the fight phase, after this model has finished its attacks, if this model destroys one or more enemy units this phase, each enemy unit within 6 inches of this model must take a battle shock test. Why the fuck do I care about my Lord Corn of Skulls battle shocking people around it for 450 points? I get it. It has pretty much Stomper profile with T13, 3 up, 5 up, 24 wounds. That's a lot to try to take off, and the things that you can put on it are pretty nasty. But your Gore Storm Cannon is either a Gore Storm Cannon, Demon Gore Cannon, or an Ichor Cannon. And then after you have that, you only have also the Skull Hurler. I say only, even though it is 60, 2d6, 3, 14, 3, 3. And the Hades Gatling Cannon for sustained hits 1. Sustained hits, Skull Hurler probably hurts, but the rule is just so lackluster that I can see why nobody busted out. Compared to if I just had 2 Forge Fiends for this price. Or let's see, can you get 3? No, you're just a little bit out of 3. But, wait, what were we at? Forge Fiends are 190? Yeah, sorry. Just 2. I was giving them a Venom Crawler price for a second in my head. But yeah, for the price of 1 Lord of Skulls, I can have 2 Forge Fiends that do about the same, especially with devastating wounds. Yeah. So, but it is Titanic and towering. So if people are scared of trying to shoot this off the board, yeah. But are we realistically getting our Corn Lord of Skulls all the way to combat with something? I don't think so. But if you can, if somebody has let you get into combat with your Corn Lord of Skulls, yeah, yeah. And interesting enough, they have one of the. This has one of the damage characteristics in which your offset goes down um, once you're damaged. 8 OC. I don't know if that's a price I'm willing to pay. But moving forward to just the fact that you have the option to do other things, right? We see that Chaos Spawn, while an enemy unit, excluding the vehicles, is within 3 inches of the units, minus 1 OC of models in this unit, with a 5 up feel no pain for 70 points for 2 models. Now they have 0 OC themselves, but this is just good interrupt. Real quick, D6 plus 2, 5, 1, 2. Awesome. You also have options to. Where are we at? All the other cool things. Like you can still bring Chaos Bikers. You can still bring. Where are you at? Dark Apostle with a Cursed Cultist. Like we see that this is a problem apparently. You can still bring these things. But yeah, I don't know. I think we just aren't looking at the buffing aspect of Soulforged Warpack from the list that I've seen. Is that better than Renegade Raiders? Probably not. Is it better than Chaos Cult? Man, I hope so. But it should be better than Emperor's Children, Veterans of the Long War, and Deceptors. I'll tell you that much. So, yeah, if you have additional insight onto why Soulforged Warpack is struggling, feel free to drop it in the comments below. Because I would love to know what apparently none of us know. So, yeah. If you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.